Jeff Schrode, Jeffshrode, and I'm the head athletic trainer.
But you go by?
Doc.
DOC, I'm assuming?
DOC.
Where'd you get that nickname?
I think it's a Texas thing. In most schools that you go to, it's just a nickname. But if you go outside of Texas, you don't see it that often. But inside Texas, a lot of trainers are Doc.
Okay, so how'd you end up in athletic training?
When I was a middle school athlete, I hurt my ankle and had to go to rehab. And I found it very interesting, and I knew that I wasn't going to be a Division I anything. And so I thought that that would be an interesting path to stay in the athletic area, and be involved with the children.
Okay, and how long have you been here at Bullard?
I'm on my 15th year here at Bullard and my 32nd year total.
So you are a seasoned veteran.
You could say that. Old is what they say, yeah.
No, not old. Seasoned. I would never call you old. All right, Doc, as I was talking to Scott before, we are in some extreme heat days. This is kind of the peak of summer. Y'all are also in preseason for football, which is a big deal,
right?
As I'm told, here in Texas. How are you keeping these athletes safe in this extreme temperature? What are like some specific protocols that you're looking at and monitoring?
So there are several avenues that we take to avoid heat issues. Number one is acclimation. We hope that all our athletes are out during the summer. Matter of fact, I send out statements and Facebook posts and emails to say, hey, don't sit at home, get outside. We have a summer program that we hope that all the kids are here and getting used to the heat. We ask them that, don't just do it in the mornings. Go out during the day before we start two-a-day so that they're getting acclimated. We also here at Bullard, we do morning practices at the beginning. We mix in a couple of afternoon practices so that we're not just overwhelming them at the beginning. So they're getting used to the heat without being the hottest part of the day. But then we throw in some here at the end that we're going to practice in the heat of the day. And of course, when school starts, we'll be right in the middle of the heat of the day. Nutrition is our number one thing. We try to teach our kids that nutrition is the most important. Having the right foods, the right drinks, all that kind of thing before you get here is so important. When they get here, we have unlimited water and Gatorade for them at all times. If a cooler goes empty, they come get us and we fill it back up. And so we make sure that our coaches are really, really good here. Our student trainers are out on the middle of the field at every practice with water bottles and towels and buckets of ice water. And so they're allowed at any time. We do not do real breaks here. We do take some breaks, but that's not our main point. Our main point is you can have water whenever you want it. So if you're in line and you're not running a route, my kid's standing there and we're giving you water. So we make sure we pump that water in there. We also preach to them about recovery, making sure that they're eating the right things after, making sure that they're staying in. Coach Callaway mentioned that, I talk to them, I can't make them do things, but I tell them going to the lake and going to work on the top of a roof or something like that when you're not practicing is probably not the best thing. So we try to monitor that and let them know those things. We also always have cold ice baths ready, just in case we do have a heat issue. The first thing we're going to do is submerge them in ice. But our guys like to do it almost daily. We'll have cold whirlpools for them, and as soon as they get through with practice, they jump in a tub that's about 50-55 degrees and cool that body off, and they really enjoy that. But it's always there also for an emergency.
Okay, so can you tell me some of the health benefits of doing the ice bath after being out in this kind of heat?
Well, that's debatable. Some people think that they don't do anything, but it does bring the body temperature down. We know that for sure. Also, we believe that if it feels good to them, then if they feel better, then that's good too. But also pushes the soreness out of their muscles, especially those first couple of days. The lactic acid build up, try to push some of that out of there. But I think they really just enjoy it because it's 102 out here and they get to come in and jump in that and feel a lot better.
Yeah, absolutely. So can you tell me, do you have any specific numbers in terms of what or how many fluids you need to intake for the amount of effort or time that you're out here?
Right, so we tell our athletes that they should really drink about a ½ ounce for each pound that they weigh. That's our good measuring table there. So if you're 160 pounds, right, you need to drink half of that for your body weight in ounces of water.
Water, specifically water.
Well, fluids. We push water more. Obviously, we have Gatorade and Powerade ready for them all the time. They do need to replace their electrolytes, but water, we need to make sure that they're drinking that water.
And what kind of foods are you recommending they eat? What are some good high energy supplies?
So our two biggest things that we tell them, like after or in between practices or after a practice, are very simple. Get some chocolate milk and get a peanut butter and jelly sandwich. Those two things are really good. You're looking for carbs, you're looking for proteins, and you're trying to replace those electrolytes. So those are the things that we kind of push. But anything, we tell them to salt their food a little bit more than they have in the past. You know, most dietitians and nutritional people say don't use too much salt. Well, at this time of the year, as much as they're sweating, there's no way they're going to have too much salt. So we try to get them to salt their food a little bit more, and then we just talk to them about the different foods that are good in proteins and carbohydrates and not fatty foods.
Okay. And I had another question. I just completely blanked on it. Oh, what are the most common symptoms you see or you look for in players who are at the onset of a heat-related illness?
So profuse sweating, okay, and then looking for paleness of the skin. When it gets to a more severe state, we're watching for them to quit sweating. When you go into heat exhaustion, you're going to start seeing them stop sweating. So if I walk up on a player out here in the middle of 102-degree weather, and there's not sweat beating up on their forehead, that's a sign that we're going to do it. Also, muscle cramps, that'll start early in the early process of the heat exhaustion. So we look for all those things. We look for kids that are losing a lot of weight over a few days and not putting that weight back on after practice. So all those things are things that we look for.
So weight is something that you monitor and
Yes.
that's based on like they're just losing a lot of fluids? Is that
correct? So they're going to lose a few pounds out of practice, but just from sweating, and they should be able to put that back on after they go home and drink those fluids.
Okay. And how do you train your student athletic trainers to be prepared for these kinds of situations?
So one of our big talks at the beginning of the year, we get them together, we do our CPR training, and we sit down and we talk about heat issues and different injuries, and we just explain to them what to look for, and we explain to them to push the water. We tell them not to let the athletes say no too many times, because athletes will get in the middle of practice and they think they're fine and they don't need water. But we tell them not to let them say no more than once and put the bottle up there and make them drink some water.
Okay. And you might not know the answer to this, but I'm just curious, based on my previous experience with turf, we used to have soccer camp. You know, you got cleats on, it's 100 degrees, I'm from Georgia, same thing, very hot. Turf gets really hot. I mean, we had girls whose glue was coming, like their shoes were coming undone because the glue was
Right.
melting because we were on turf. So what do you have anything about that?
So one of the great benefits here at Bullard ISD is about 3 or 4 years ago, we changed our turf. And so instead of those little black pellets, we have what's called Brockfield, and it's basically little wood chips. I would say that it's probably 15, 20 degrees cooler than the turf with the black. When you come off of the grass to a black turf, you really feel it. When you come onto our turf, it's really not that big of a difference. So you don't feel the heat in your shoes anymore, and it's just a lot better than the old rubber infill.
Okay, and what's this called again?
Brockfield.
How do you spell that?
B-R-O-C-K.
Okay, perfect. Yeah, because I just remember it was miserable.
Oh, absolutely,
out
yes.
there all
Oh,
the
yeah,
time.
you couldn't stand out here very long, but this is totally different. This really makes a difference.